Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent Nintendo / gaming video for this week, for the week of July 25th to the 31st, though. And we got 4 stories to cover, including the Sony and Microsoft releasing some of their fiscal earnings regarding both the Xbox Series S and X and the PS5, though. More fallout has emerged basically from the Activision Blizzard controversy, though. Supposedly Nintendo added something that the claim is that it might address some of the issues in regarding of the Joy-Con drift, though. And of course, some information has come out more about the Steam Deck, ranging from a clarification Valve had to make in regards of the 30 FPS to basically whether it's competing really against the Switch or not, though. And if you're interested in any of the stories or that I'm going to be talking about, or the stuff I'm going to be talking about in this video, I'll have a link down in the description down below where I got my information about this, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. But before we get started, though, we're going to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cents. Stories that kind of have caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details or anything like that. The first one is that there is a report coming out that a Russian website, basically a retail website, has basically shown that it looks like Darksiders 3 might be coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, supposedly this was taken down when word got out about it. Whether this was a typo or whether this was actually happening, it remains to be seen, though. And so far, THQ Nordic has not said anything in regards of Darksiders 3 even coming to the Nintendo Switch. There were some comments in the past during early in the Switch's life cycle about whether or not a game like that could make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. But we've seen impossible ports come to the Switch before: Crysis, Doom Eternal, Wolfenstein 2, Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and THQ Nordic has been sporting the Switch, bringing over Kingdom of Amalur: Re-Reckoning to the remake of Destroy All Humans. So, and of course, pretty much all the Darksiders games have made their way over to the Nintendo Switch. So it's definitely not completely out of the realm of possibility that Darksiders 3 can make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. We also learned in a bizarre promotion, though, Nintendo has partnered up with Krispy Kremes to release the Nexus level donut, which is basically a donut with the Xbox symbol on it. From what I've been reading so far, it seems to be only available in Ireland and the UK at this time, though I don't know if it will be available everywhere or anything like that, though. I will say it's a bizarre promotion, but it's not the first time I've seen these bizarre promotions before. I mean, we've seen KFC joke about they're releasing their console, though, to even Nintendo teaming up with Cold Stone Creamery around the time to promote the game Super Mario Maker 2. So it's an odd promotion, but and to some degree it's kind of bizarre, though, but it's nothing new that hasn't been done before, though. We also learned that the former executive of PlayStation for the PlayStation brand shares their concern with Xbox Game Pass model, though isn't sure if it's sustainable or not. And time will tell if that's true or not, though, but right now it seems to be doing very well for Microsoft at the moment, though, and some studios, particularly indie studios, are very pleased with Game Pass in general. So we'll see. He could be right. It may not be sustainable in the long run, but at the same time, he could also be wrong as well. So we'll have to wait and see, though. We also learned that Gunho, who has released their game Ninjara, if I'm saying the game name correctly, though, announced that they don't necessarily want the game to be restricted to the Switch forever, as they would like to bring it to other platforms or not. Now, I don't know if they signed a deal or something with Nintendo to have it exclusively on the Switch, or if it's a time exclusive, though, but it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing it pop up to other systems, though. I mean, it could pop up on PC, it could pop up on the PlayStation, it could pop up on Xbox in general. So time will tell if that if it's still restricted just to the Switch system only, or if we start seeing it come to other systems, though. We also learned, at least from Sega, that apparently Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, which I believe is a remake of the first and second Super Monkey Ball game, will run at 60 FPS on the Nintendo Switch. Not to mention, we learned that it has motion controls, which is certainly nice, but at the same time, I find it interesting a game that's a remake of the GameCube games can run at 60 FPS, but yet Sega can't get Sonic Color Ultimate on the Switch to have it run at 30 frames per second. So it's certainly a odd thing to see this happen, though. I mean, I think it's sort of odd, though. We also learned that Nintendo will be shutting down soon one of their mobile games, which is the Dr. Mario mobile games, though. I haven't read what the reason is. It could be maybe it's not making as much money, or maybe because the Switch is doing well, Nintendo is sort of changing their strategies in regards of, them putting their IPs on mobile devices or anything like that. But either way, though, it does look like Dr. Mario, at least the mobile game on your phone and all, is going to shut down, though. And last but not least, we have 2 movie parts to cover, though. We are learning that basically actress Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney over the release of Black Widow, particularly because the claim is that although she's earning money from the theater release, it's not earning money from the streaming release. And supposedly the claim is that they never told her that Black Widow will be released on like Disney Plus and all. Which, again, assuming all this information based on everything I've heard so far, I do have to side with Scarlett Johansson on this, though. I think that as we're starting to see more and more people are getting into streaming, some of it is technology, others is because COVID-19, some people maybe not be comfortable coming out to go to the theaters and all that stuff and rather stream the movie at home, which, if that's the case, I really think there should be a change, though. And I do think actors and actresses should not only get a cut from the theater release, though, but should get a cut from the streaming release as well. So I definitely, based on what I've heard so far, I definitely do have to side with actress Scarlett Johansson on this lawsuit and all. Even though I am a huge MCU fan, I still have to side with her nevertheless, though. And last but not least, we finally have a second trailer for Ghostbusters Afterlife, and it's definitely a movie I'm looking forward to seeing, though. It's a continuation from the first 2 Ghostbusters movie, though. It has no connection to Ghostbusters Answer the Call, though, especially with the whole controversy surrounding it, though, which some of it I think is way out of line and over the top with with the controversy of that movie, to be exact. But in either case, I'm looking forward to this one, though. I will say, like with the Jackass Forever movie, if this is the last time we're going to see, Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and all, in terms of the original cast of Ghostbusters, if this is the last time we're going to see them, let's end it on a high note. Let's do the passing of the torch to a new generation of Ghostbusters. So I'm hoping this is good, though. It definitely has a different vibe to it compared to what the first 2 movies are. I definitely can see why some people compare it to almost like Stranger Things, that hit Netflix series and also. But right now, my interest on that movie certainly has gone up indeed, though. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the Steam Deck, though. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware. Last week, or at least earlier this month, though, Valve announced that they would be releasing basically their handheld called the Steam Deck, which basically they are dubbing it as a way to play Steam games on the go and all that stuff. And judging by what it looks like, judging by what they showed so far, despite the fact that to some degree it kind of somewhat looks like a Game Gear, and where the analog sticks are placed, though, kind of reminds me of the Wii U gamepad where the analog sticks were placed there. It is an interesting tech. It's an interesting tech that Valve is releasing, though. It will be interesting to see how well it does and whether or not it does well, or if they end up making the same mistake they did with the Steam machine, or if it goes the route that, like we saw with the PSP or the PS Vita, the way that Sony has handled that, though. So time will tell whether or not the system will do very well, though. But based on what we're hearing about the pre-orders, though, it seems to be off to a good start. Whether Valve can maintain those pre-orders, especially with the whole chip shortage situation going on, though, remains to be seen. But recently, though, Valve has recently come out with some more information about the Steam Deck, with 2 informations, though. One has to do with the clarification in terms of the frame rate on it, on certain games, though, and the other has to do with whether or not they're truly competing against the Nintendo Switch or not. So in the first article, though, let me get that out. From IGN, though, it reads that the designer of Steam Deck clarifies handheld's 30 FPS target, though. one of the designers working on the upcoming Steam Deck has clarified his previous comments surrounding a 30 FPS target for games running on the console. In an interview with IGN, Griffais, apologize I'm not saying the name correctly, had previously said, "So far, we're looking pretty good. I think everything that's been coming out this year has been running without issues that we tried. I think this is largely a factor of industry trends. If people are still valuing high frame rate and high resolution on different platforms, though, I think that content will scale down to our 800p 30 HZ target really well. The idea of a target 30 HZ, another term for frame rates per second in this context, has led to some members of the community feeling anxious or upset, at least, about the handheld's capability, assuring that Valve was pushing for games to run simply at 38 FPS and no higher. However, in a recent tweet, he reassured the community that 30 FPS target for the handheld console refers to the floor of what we consider playable in our performance testing. According to the tweet he wrote, the 30 FPS target refers to the floor of what we consider playable in our performance testing. Games we tested as shown have consistently met and exceeded that bar so far. There will also be an optional built-in FPS limiter to fine-tune performance versus battery life, though. So basically what they're saying is that they had to re-clarify that is that it is possible to play the game, use the Steam Deck and play your games at 60 FPS on the device, though, but at the same time it sounds like, though, that could impact the battery life on the Steam Deck, though, which honestly, again, I'm not a tech expert, I'm not a PC expert, though I just want to clarify that. It isn't really surprising, though. As impressive as it is, the idea of a portable PC handheld, though, I'm not surprised that there are some limitations in certain areas, though. And obviously, for those who are picking up the Steam Deck, though, they're going to have to fine-tune based on what game they're playing and what frame rate works best, whether you think having a 60 FPS is important, or having a 30 FPS to make sure you maintain the battery life, though. So there's certainly going to be a lot of options available for consumers to probably fine-tune this and all, but it doesn't surprise me that there are some limitations, but obviously Valve had to clarify that comment, to be exact. But so basically, in other words, from what I'm taking away from it, is that the higher the frame rate, if you push it up to 60, though, odds are it could have an impact on the battery life to a certain degree. And whether you think that's an issue or not, that's going to be your call at the end of the day. Still, I'm not sure this is going to have it might have some concerns for some folks, but I doubt it will have a negative impact. And I'm sure for those who are PC gamers looking forward to this are still going to pick this up nevertheless, though. Meanwhile, though, Valve recently responded to several comments of it, claiming that some people believe that this is going to be competitive to the Nintendo Switch. Some have even gone far as calling this the Switch killer and all that stuff. But the recent comment made by Valve sounds like that really isn't the case, though, at least from what I'm reading. In an article, let me get it out. Okay, here we go. In a other article, this was from Nintendo Life, which they picked up with IGN. Here's what they had to say. Quote, Steve attached, here's what they had to say. Quote, "We try to make all decisions really in Steam Deck that targets that audience and serve the customer that we already have a good time interacting with the games that are on that platform. On that platform, on our platform. That's really was how we were making our decision. We end up with a device that cosmetically shares the same triads with a Switch, but that just was. It's kind of an artifact of how we proceeded down the design direction, though." And he also continues, "So I think Nintendo does a great job targeting the audience they do with the content they have, and that's going to be different. Like when you pick up this Steam Deck up, it feels much more like the ergonomics." Apologize for not saying that correctly, though. "For somebody who used to play with an expensive game controller, right? Because it's bigger and it's bulkier than a Switch. And if we're right, that's the right trade-off to be making for an audience that we're going after. Let me put it this way. If you're a gamer and you're picking up the Switch and you're picking up one of these, you're going to know which one is right for you, right? And you're going to know within 10 seconds, though. So, based on what I'm reading, at least according to Valve's response, though, it's what I've kind of suspected, though. Valve's really aiming for the PC market. This device, the Steam Deck, is specifically targeted towards that market, though. And all honesty, though, that's not a bad thing or anything like that. If that's the market they want to go with Steam Deck, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I seriously doubt this is going to be a Switch killer and all. As you look at the Switch and you look at the Steam Deck, though, they're aiming for different audiences though. So I really doubt this Steam Deck is going to be the Switch killer, though. Now, if it somehow eats through the Switch's profits, though, then the situation might be a bit different. But I'm not seeing it as the Switch killer as it is. As I see it, though, this is more towards they're making something and they're targeting it towards specifically their audience, though. The PC audience in general, though. So overall, though, obviously Valve had to clarify the frame rate concerns in regards to the Steam Deck, though, and it does sound like you can move it up. Based on what I'm reading, though, you can move it up to 60 FPS, but it may come at the cost of the battery. Battery life could be an issue with that, though, and the fact that Valve is aiming for the PC audience isn't really that surprising. I think that's who they are targeting with the Steam Deck, though. And again, like I said, and this is coming from a longtime Nintendo fan, that's not a bad thing. If that's the audience you are aiming for with the Steam Deck, that's fine, though. Whether it becomes a hit or not with the PC audience remains to be seen. But like I said earlier, so far the pre-orders have been selling out, and odds are there's a good chance it will do well. Whether it will do well in the long run, however, that remains to be seen, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with the whole Joy-Con and Joy-Con drift issue that some people claim may have fixed it to a certain degree, though. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, I want to take a look at the situation surrounding, the Joy-Con and whole Joy-Con drift, though. Now, this has been an issue that has kind of been bothersome to Nintendo ever since the Nintendo Switch came out and all that stuff. Now, just to be clear, though, I really haven't experienced Joy-Con drift issues or anything like that. But there have been people who have, though. So even though I may have not experienced it, though, I'm not ignoring the fact that there are those who may have been impacted with it, though. And we've seen cases where there have been some lawsuits directed at Nintendo over the issues of Joy-Con drift, though. Although Nintendo has been pushing for Archerberry, or if I apologize for not saying the name correctly, to try to settle this out of court and all that stuff. Well, recently there's been some discovery that some people may have found somewhat of a solution to it. This ranged from cutting out a certain cardboard and putting it into your Joy-Cons to the discovery of some of the foam that may have been found in some of the Joy-Cons, including the recent Joy-Cons with the Zelda symbols on it with the release of Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, though. In an article posted on, let me get it out, on Nintendo Life, though, it reads that, quote, "Earlier this month, we ran a story about someone who had supposedly come up with a solution for the Joy-Con drift. In case you missed it, the fix requires you to insert a small square of paper or cardboard into the same spot as the analog stick location in order to reapply pressure to the case of the controller. It's that simple and so far to be working." Now, a Nintendo Switch user by the name of Mario RPG Fan on Twitter has opened up their brand new Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword controller, yes, someone actually did that, and discovered 2 foam strips around the analog selection of in the case. While it seems like this could potentially be an exciting fix since it blew up online, many other Switch fans have now highlighted how similar the strip has been spotted on much older Joy-Cons though. YouTuber Spawnwave, like his channel, I did like to point that out, shared his own yellow Joy-Cons from a few years ago along with the new Legend Zelda ones though. Following YouTube's Erica Griffin's, if I'm saying the name correctly though, apologize I'm not, response to this, noting how it's apparently been a good while since the foam pads have been in the Joy-Cons, but they won't necessarily resolve the drift issue. This person said, quote, I first saw them on my new neon purple and orange Joy-Cons October 2019. I reshell these things all the time. It has the pad and still drifts a bit. Shrug, silly fix for a multi-facial or for an issue though. The article concludes, while these foam pads may have slightly improved Joy-Con controllers, it seems they're not necessarily the official fix everyone is hoping for. So this discovery of these foams inside a Joy-Con, apparently it doesn't sound like they are going to address the whole Joy-Con drift issue that has sadly, unfortunately, some people have experienced though. I do think this is an issue that Nintendo does need to do a better job resolving it and all that. While, like I said, while not everyone has experienced Joy-Con drift though, there's no denying the issue still exists out there. And the fact that someone figured it out with using a cardboard and all, or piece of paper though, it's pretty amazing though, considering that they're able to do this, yet Nintendo can't with when they start pushing manufacturing these Joy-Cons though. So I do hope going forward though, Nintendo does find a way to address this issue, especially should or if they do, you know, like a Switch.to or Switch Pro, if that ever happens. But if that ever does happen, I'm hoping this is an issue that they could address at some point down the road. So overall, it sounds like these foams, based on what we're reading so far, that are in the Joy-Cons though, it helps to some degree, but it doesn't officially fix the whole Joy-Con drift issue that some people have that some folks out there have experienced with their Joy-Cons though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with the whole Activision Blizzard situation that apparently it's still ongoing though, and apparently we're hearing a lot of folks who at least worked at Activision have decided to walk out and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this part we're going to be talking about the whole situation surrounding Activision Blizzard though. Now I'm sure most of you are aware that last week an explosive story just came out about the whole situation there. This had to do with a lot of basically the state of California suing Activision Blizzard after an investigation that discovered of how employees were treated there, ranging from it being a fraternity-like atmosphere there to reports of women being treated unfairly to even one going as far as one actually committing suicide though. And this certainly has that story definitely exploded. At the time, Activision Blizzard responded as saying that the allegations came off as not being true and all that. Well, apparently that response may have had some sort of domino effect, because it looks as though there are certainly a lot of people are now responding to Activision's Blizzard's response to this in a negativity. Some of it is from the employees, some of it is now possibly the company being investigated by maybe this like investment firm or something like that, to the point that the CEO of Activision Blizzard had to respond. Some of it may have to do with the fact that Activision's Blizzard's stock tanked when this whole story exploded though. In an article published on NBC News, it reads that, quote, employees at the video game company Activision Blizzard staged a walkout Wednesday to demand better working conditions for women and other marginalized groups after the state of California sued the company last week, alleging widespread sexual harassment and discrimination though. We believe that our values as employees are not being accurately reflected in the words and actions of our leadership, organizer said in a statement released Tuesday, referring to the company's official response to the lawsuit in which it denied the allegations. Employees began the event outside Blizzard's main campus in Irvine, California at 10 a.m. Pacific time, with a virtual protest taking place on social media for those who can't attend in person starting at 9 a.m. Pacific time using the hashtag #ActBlizz walkout, though. The California Department of Fair and Employment and Housing last week sued Activision Blizzard, one of the largest video game companies in the world, which makes the popular titles including World of Warcraft and Call of Duty, alleged that the company had a perverse frat boy culture in which female employees are sexually harassed and are paid and promoted less than their male counterparts. After the lawsuit was filed, several former employees shared further allegations of harassment and discrimination on social media, while dozens of current employees expressed their solidarity with women whose allegations were featured in the lawsuit, though. Activision Blizzard did not respond to requests for comments about the walkout and the demands. It issued a statement last week condemning sexual harassment in the workplace, but downplayed the allegations, though. But it's a long article, but I'll get to some of the quick parts of it, though. The same employees who organized the walkout also drafted a letter condemning the company's response to the lawsuit, which more than 3,100 current and former employees have signed by midday Tuesday, though. The walkout organizer have 4 demands for management: end mandatory arbitration clauses in employees' contracts, if I'm saying the name correctly. As the organizer said, says they protect abusers and limit the ability of victims to seek resolution. Adopt policy to improve diversity, equality, and inclusion, publish compensation data, promotion rate and salary range for employees of all genders and ethics, and hire a third party to audit the company's structure, human resource department, and executives, though. Later Tuesday, after the announcement of Wednesday's walkout, Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick emailed employees apologizing for the company's early reaction to the lawsuit, though. Our initial response to the issue we faced together and to your concerns were quite frankly tone deaf, he said in the email, shared as a statement with NBC News. It is imperative that we acknowledge all perspective and experience and respect the feelings of those who have been mistreated in any way. I am sorry we did not provide the right empathy and understanding. Kotick said that he has asked the law firm WilmerHale to conduct a review of the company's policies and procedures to ensure that we have and maintain the best practice to promote a respectful and inclusive workplace, and encourage employees to report any workplace violations they have experienced, though. He said the company would investigate every allegations and terminate anyone found to have implicated the integrity of our procedures for evaluating claims and imposing inappropriate consequences. Some inappropriate in-game content were also removed. He added, a spokesperson did not provide more details about the specific in-game content that would be removed. Your well-being remains my priority, and I will spare no company resource to ensure that our company has the most welcome and comfortable and safe culture possible, Kotick said. Over at Game Industry Biz, the highlight this points out that shareholders' rights law firm investigating Activision Blizzard. It reads, shareholders' rights law firm Robertson LLP has launched an investigation into Activision Blizzard with concerns that certain directors and officers at the firm had violated the Security Exchange Act of 1934 and breached their fidelity duties to the company. The investigation follows a lawsuit filed last week by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing against Activision Blizzard for violation of the state's civil rights and equal pay regarding its treatment of women. Since the news of the lawsuit surfaced, over 1,000 current and former employees have signed a petition calling the company's response to the case abhorrent and insulting, and company and I walk out at Blizzard's California office also take place later today, though. And of course, it points out that Activision Blizzard is responding to this. I think this is going to be very tough for Activision Blizzard. This is like, to me, it sounds like this is Bobby Cox trying to put like a band-aid on a broken wound. I mean, there's going to be a lot of soul searching and a lot of re-examining what's going on at Activision Blizzard, though. And it's, like I said before last week, assuming these allegations are true, though, this is horrible. No one should ever be treated like that in any way, especially women in general, especially if they want to get into the gaming industry as a whole. And I may have said this last week, and I'll say this again. I really think the employees, and I know some will call this a political statement and some might disagree with me on this, but I really think they should consider the idea of unionization and all that, though. I really think that's something that they should leave the door open towards. I think that's something that they should take a look at. And I think the gaming industry as a whole, including developers, should seriously consider this idea, though, because when you hear allegations like this, though, it's more and more reason for people to back up the idea of unionization, though. Again, unions aren't 100% perfect, but it definitely, when you hear stories like this, it makes the argument for unionization even more, though. So to me, it sounds like this whole situation may not go away for Activision Blizzard, though, and they may not be able to handle. This sounds like this is going to be tough for them to handle the situation compared to the whole Blitzchung / free Hong Kong story that really damaged, that really certainly put a sore eye on Activision Blizzard. I think they're going to have a hard time with this one, though, and I have no confidence with Bobby Kotick, though. Bear in mind, this is the same guy who because he didn't make all the money in the world, laid off several employees while the higher-ups got bonuses and all that stuff. Look, I understand video games cost money to make, though, but it becomes very hard when you hear stories like this, though. So, overall, this is more of a problem for Activision Blizzard. This is a problem that it's not going to go away, though. And as I said before, I really think that the folks at Activision Blizzard, the employees, though, and I think the employees who work at video game businesses as a whole should seriously consider the idea of unionization, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and this one has to do with, apparently, Microsoft and Sony have released their fiscal quarters reports in regards of the PS5 and the Xbox Series S and X. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Microsoft and Sony as they have released their quarter's earnings, though. Now, it's been interesting to see how well the PS5 and the Xbox Series S and X have been doing lately, though. Despite the whole situation we're dealing with, ranging from a chip shortage, though, that not only they are impacted, but a lot of industries are impacted in general, though, to the whole situation with the pandemic that's been going on and all that. But we've seen lately a lot of the numbers have shown, despite all that, that they seem to be doing very well, and the latest quarter earnings that came out from both Microsoft and Sony seem to indicate that that hasn't really changed at all. In an article posted, the first one from The Verge, it reads that, quote, Sony has now sold more than 10 million PS5 consoles. That's up more than 2 million sales from the 7.8 million Sony previously revealed in April, and it means the PS5 continues to outpace the PS4, making it the fastest selling console in Sony's history. The PS5 may be selling well, but supply is constraints, and it's still difficult to purchase a console right now thanks to a global chip shortage, so some of that is also the scalper situation as well. While PS5 has reached more households faster than any of our previous consoles, we still have a lot of work ahead of us, though, as demand for PS5 continues to outstrip supplies, says Jim Ryan, President and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment. I want gamers to know that while we continue to face unique challenges throughout the world that affects our industries and many others, improving inventory level remains a top priority for SIE. Sony has also shared some milestones around the PS5's launch title, Spider-Man Miles Morales has sold more than 6.5 million copies since its launch in November, with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart selling more than 1.1 million copies since its launch last month. Returnal has also sold more than 560,000 copies since its April's launch, though. So obviously, though, PS5, despite what Sony's facing right now, is continuing to do very well. And while there has been some debate about the issue of basically Sony charging $70 for a lot of their games, it doesn't seem to have impacted the Miles Morales Spider-Man or Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And Returnal, despite some controversy that game has had, though, seems to be doing very well for Sony, though. Not to mention they purchased the studio that made the game, though, to be exact. Meanwhile, over at Microsoft, though, according to Game Radar, it reads that, quote, Xbox Series X and S are the fastest selling Xbox consoles ever, Microsoft has revealed. During Microsoft's fourth earnings call today, the CEO reaffirmed the company's committed to Xbox's ever-growing presence in the gaming space, saying, "We're all in on games, despite a supply shortage that made it pretty dang hard to buy an Xbox Series X, not to mention possibly S as well. Since the console's launch last November, Microsoft says its next-gen hardware is still its fastest-selling box yet. Millions have already streamed games to their desktop, tablets, phones, and the Xbox Series S and X are the fastest selling consoles ever, with more consoles sold life to date than any previous generations, though. Adding that Game Pass is also growing rapidly, though. Again, it's a tough pill to swallow if you've been desperately tracking each and every Xbox Series X restock, but still hasn't been able to put in an order. Regardless, Nikio partner senior analyst Daniel Ottman estimates the total sales of Xbox Series X and S has reached 6.5 million as of June 30th, a sizable bump from Xbox One's 5.7 million and Xbox 360's 5 million of the same time frame, though. Basically, he points that out. He writes tweets that he believes, 6.5 million as of June 30th, 2021, though. He also says supplies for Series X and S improved in the past quarter, with hardware revenues up 20% QOQ. The article mentions also Sony's situation as well. It also points out, Nintendo has been selling like hotcakes with the Switch and all that stuff. The article reads that, quote, it's easy to track console sales, but what isn't as easy to determine is why people are buying so many next-gen consoles. As Prevail theories note that Sony and Microsoft both launched new hardware during an unprecedented pandemic that trapped folks at home. Looking for ways to entertain themselves, there's no doubt people turning to gaming and sought out the latest and greatest hardware. That said, the pandemic also ushered in the worst economic recession since the Great Depression, which you would think would be quite bad for video game console sales. Regardless, the data are clear. People like playing video games more than ever, despite the current challenge of getting a next-gen console. So obviously, despite all the hurdles that we're facing right now, that both those companies are, which ranges from the chip shortage, though, and of course, COVID-19 that we're all dealing with right now, it seems Microsoft and Sony are doing very well with their systems. They continue to sell very well, which certainly has got to put a smile on their face, though. Now, granted, some of that could also be, the scalper situation. As we've seen before, we've seen cases where scalpers are using bots to buy up as many of these systems as possible and resell them on sites like eBay and all that. Although recently eBay has gone after those who have been trying to pull that stunt with the Steam Deck and all that. So some of it is probably bots, though, and make no mistake, it's still hard to find the system nevertheless. Although out of the three console manufacturers, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, I would have to say, between all three of them, though, the Switch, I would say, is the easiest to find. I've been able to see regular Switches and Switch Lites. Those are easier to find. Followed by, I think, the Xbox Series X and S, although I tend to see more Xbox Series S than I did with the X, though. And last but not least, PS5 is still, extremely hard to find, though. So, the situation somewhat better, but not quite not quite though, and it could explain why Microsoft's Xbox Series X and S, and on the NPDs in June did very well and overtook the PS5. I think some of it may be because it was easier to find those systems than it is with the PS5 though. But nevertheless though, obviously both companies are doing very well indeed, and I'm waiting to see what Nintendo has to say when they release their quarter earnings though. One last thing to point out is that recently it has been discovered though that Sony is doing figuring out a way you can upgrade, the SSD inside, the PS5 and all that stuff. And while that's great, based on what they're showing and based on how to take pretty much the system apart to plug it in, it's just, oh my god, it looks more complicated than it should be. I mean, compare that to like how the Switch, where you just get a micro SD card to plug it in for more storage space, or even the Xbox Series X and S, which you use that Seagate card, you just plug it in there, and that's it to get the storage space. So this sounds literally insane what Sony is trying to do, and I do hope that we'll see. I do hope that there are other options as well. I mean, this does sound a bit ridiculous, at least in my book, though. But nevertheless, though, overall, it sounds like both Sony and Microsoft have to be happy about something, though. Their systems are certainly doing well for them, indeed. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Valve clarifying some stuff regarding the Steam Deck and all? Are you pleased to hear that 30 FPS is the floor, that you could still reach 60 FPS though? Are you concerned that will have an impact on the battery life? Are you not really surprised that with the Steam Deck they're not really competing with the Switch? They're more basically targeting more towards the PC audience / gamers and all? What do you think about this whole situation with the Joy-Con drift, though? Have you taken apart your Joy-Cons and seen these foams inside the Nintendo Switch? Have they had any kind of impact with the Joy-Cons in any way? Are you still experiencing Joy-Con drift, though? What do you think about this latest situation with Activision Blizzard, though? Do you think Activision will finally do something, though? Do you think that there's more? Do you think there's going to be more headaches ahead for Activision Blizzard? And what do you think about these quarter earnings announcements for both Microsoft and Sony? Are you not really surprised that the system is doing very well, though? Do you think some of that can contribute to basically people are able to find the systems, or the fact that it's still the bots, the scalpers, and all that? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, wish you all a good day then. Bye!